Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the practically impossible true story of an ordinary guy who actually pulled it off. He successfully vanished from modern society. We're talking about a complete disappearance into thin air, right under the world's nose, into a lifestyle that, honestly, most of us can barely even comprehend.
Part 1. Escaping the Modern Trap.
Okay, let's kick things off by stripping away literally every modern comfort you're relying on right now to watch this. Imagine waking up every single morning to absolute pin-drop silence. No neighbors, no phone, no internet, no electricity, and absolutely no one to talk to. You are surrounded by nothing but wild animals and endless forest, completely stripped of the basic necessities that make our day-to-day lives so comfortable. Now, let's be real. Most of us probably wouldn't survive a single month under conditions this harsh. But this man, he survived 28 years completely alone. For nearly 3 decades, nobody out there knew he was even alive. He was living entirely off the grid while the rest of the planet just kept right on spinning.
Part 2. An unexpected life reset.
Let's rewind a bit to 1989. Mauro Morandi wasn't some rich celebrity or a hardcore survivalist. He was just an ordinary Italian schoolteacher. But he felt incredibly trapped by the relentless, exhausting pace of modern life. He really just wanted a break from the whole shebang. So he bought a small boat and planned to sail across the Mediterranean. Simple enough, right? Well, nature had other plans. Strong winds violently forced his boat off course, pushing him straight toward a tiny, rugged island called Bodelli.
And it was right there on the shores of Bodelli that an unbelievable twist of fate actually happened. The island's caretaker was retiring that exact same day. And when he met Mauro, he asked him this incredibly simple but completely life-altering question. Would you like to stay? Put yourself in Mauro's shoes for just a second. What would you say? Would you drop absolutely everything right now to take over? Imagine instantly walking away from your career, your home, your friends, and literally every plan you ever made to become the sole caretaker of a remote, deserted island. I think most people would just nervously laugh off a question like that, right? But Mauro didn't laugh. He immediately accepted, making absolutely sure he could never return to his old life. He sold his boat, his previous plans vanished into thin air, and just like that, his journey of total, absolute isolation officially began.
Part 3. 3 decades of silence.
Now, let's be clear, this wasn't some luxury island getaway where you just unplug for a long weekend. His new reality was brutally severe. His existence was stripped down to the absolute bare minimum, 100% cut off from modern infrastructure. Think about it, no supermarkets to grab groceries, no restaurants, no hospitals if he got sick or hurt himself, and yeah, definitely no Wi-Fi. Every single day, Mauro was entirely responsible for his own survival. You really have to consider the stark contrast here. While Mauro was spending his days collecting rainwater, physically patching up his small cabin, cooking simple meals over a fire, and, befriending the local birds, the rest of humanity was shifting into hyperdrive. While Mauro sat quietly watching the sunsets, the outside world was frantically inventing smartphones, launching massive social media networks, and developing artificial intelligence. 2 completely different realities playing out at the exact same time. For decades, the guy lived almost exactly as he had on day 1. He was practically frozen in time as the years flew by. From his totally unplanned arrival back in 1989, right through the massive tech explosion of the 2000s, which is when his story eventually caught fire online, all the way up to his ultimate departure in 2021.
Part 4. The irony of internet fame.
Okay, so here's the ultimate irony of Mauro's entire situation. When you manage to hide this well, eventually people are going to start looking. The chaotic, tech-obsessed society he tried so desperately to escape finally breached his quiet sanctuary. Tourists eventually found him, and amazed to see a guy living out there all alone, they started snapping pictures. Well, those photos spread like wildfire across the exact same internet he had been avoiding. And before long, journalists from all over the globe were trekking to Bodelli just to get an interview with him. The world ended up giving him this incredibly famous title, the world's loneliest man. It's just such a fascinating paradox, right? By completely retreating from humanity, the man who successfully hid from society went totally viral precisely because he hid.
Part 5. Redefining happiness and freedom.
But as we all know, reality eventually catches up with everything. even a perfectly isolated paradise. After nearly 3 decades of peace, the Italian government decided that new environmental rules meant the island had to be managed differently. So, in 2021, those new regulations effectively forced the 81-year-old Mauro to pack up his life and finally leave his beloved Budelli. You might think he'd be bitter about it, right? But despite losing his home and being thrust back into a fast-paced world he barely even recognized anymore, he left with zero regrets. In fact, he dropped this incredibly profound realization about his time there. Living in silence wasn't loneliness. It was freedom.
Honestly, that completely flips everything we think we know about happiness on its head. It perfectly juxtaposes our constant, almost exhausting fear of being alone with Mauro's deliberate, peaceful choice. Society's goal right now is to escape isolation at all costs, isn't it? We fill every quiet moment with noise, screens, and notifications. But Mauro? He did the exact opposite. He fully embraced absolute isolation to find true, lasting contentment.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take away from Mauro's extraordinary journey. Think about your own life for a second. Is the greatest luxury having more, or is it actually needing less? Because perhaps our relentless pursuit of more is exactly the thing that's keeping us trapped.